Hey everybody, this is Claire, and this is Small Joyful Things. As always, I go to thrift stores or estate sales, or sometimes I buy things from Craigslist, and I'm always looking out for things that I find interesting, or I think you guys might find interesting. Still using this iPad, still thinking about going back to the other one because this reflection, not sure I'm happy about that, but anyway, here's what I've got today. I have this little plate. So it's incredibly small, by the way, like it's only just a side plate at best. It's got this lovely pattern on it, which you can just about make out. It's kind of hard to see the details, unfortunately, because of my, that's a little bit better. Kind of hard to see because of my light and everything, but hope you can see the green tint to it. It's quite nice. And you can take a look at some of the details here. You can see as well that there are some fairly significant chips on this, especially here along the edge. I could feel that immediately when I actually picked it up and ran my fingers around it like I do. Is like you will feel as soon as you touch it, the rough bits where it's been fairly well chipped. Especially this little patch here, it's been very badly damaged, which is not unusual. It's actually very old. It's you know, something of a surprise that it's lasted as long as it has, because it is very old. There you go. Yeah, definitely taking a bit of a beating. So before we do anything else, let's measure it up. And this is about, well, 6 inches across, a little bit more there, and obviously it's a plate, not even half an inch high. So where did this come from? I bought this in a thrift store for $2, and basically, despite the condition, I bought it because it's uranium glass. And generally speaking, I don't see enough of uranium glass for me to skip over it when I do see it. Like, unless something is completely destroyed, I will definitely buy it and see if I can figure out about it, because uranium glass is one of those things where they just did not make it after the Second World War. It's incredibly rare to see. If you see uranium glass that looks like it has age, chances are it's Depression era, it's early 20th century. And that is something that's definitely worth looking into and kind of trying to figure out what it is. And sometimes the patterns are very tricky to find out about, but in this case we have quite it did take a little bit of puzzling out. It's good though that the actual shapes that you see, like this one obviously it's hexagonal, it's got this little ruffle bit in the corners or whatever. It has a very strong, like this rim here, this inner rim here. Shapes can be very kind of telling of different companies, so even if the pattern itself printed on it is a little bit different, the shapes tend to kind of carry over for in the same company. So you know, if you see something that looks like it has the shape of something you've seen of a cherry blossom, but it doesn't have the cherry blossom pattern, what are the chances it was also made by Jeanette? You got to kind of narrow it down like that, and thankfully in this case I did narrow it down. So here's what we've got. And it is this. It is Hazel Atlas. That's one side. So Hazel Atlas, this is the Florentine #1 green. Hazel Atlas, I've done a few videos on the stuff that they did before. They were one of the bigger companies in the early 20th century. They were basically out of business by the 50s. They disappeared fairly quickly. The stuff that you see from them tends to have a very kind of classic kind of design, especially the stuff from around the 40s. I think I've done a video on their one of their really bright, very bright blue colonial, I want to say, one of those bowls. They did a lot of very, very striking colors, and they made a lot of their money like that, and this is definitely one of them. So really pretty. The whole pattern itself is very nice. It's incredibly distinctive, obviously because it's uranium glass. Like, there is nothing quite like the color of it. Like, once you get used to that brilliant green, there kind of really isn't anything like it. But just for the sake of it, I also have my black light. And again, this is my very powerful black light. This is a Convoy S2 Plus. This isn't like, I'm not really endorsing them or anything, because like, and I'm certainly not sponsored by anybody, because that would be insane. But definite shout out to these guys. They make incredibly good stuff, and it does not use AAA batteries. It uses this massive 18650 battery, which is actually rechargeable. There's a little thing there. I had to buy the battery specially separate from this, so about 30 bucks for the actual light itself, and then another, I think $15 I think for the battery in Canada anyway. So I take it everywhere. It's incredibly good. So I'll just turn off my light for a second. There we go. Now, there's the glow. Now, obviously this light is stupid powerful, but hopefully you can see like that incredibly bright green glow. Hopefully it shows up on camera correctly. Yeah. It really just, it's absolutely neon. Like, and I would actually like to do a comparison to actually show you guys. I don't know. Hold on a second. Sorry, slight changer. Okay, I'm going to show you a quick demonstration. This is not uranium glass. This is actually another early 20th century piece. I will be doing a video on this at some point. I just want to show you the difference. There, uranium glass. Manganese, most likely. And you can see that's a very pale kind of a lime green, and that's a really bright neon green. That's basically the difference between the two of them. Now, this is to say, I still always look for this glow. I just, by this point, I kind of know the difference. I can tell the difference between like real uranium green and this kind of very kind of like, kind of washed out kind of yellowy kind of a green that's manganese. Anyway, get rid of this. Let's turn the light back on. Right. So what else can we actually say about this? Well, the fun thing is that I have here my pocket bed depression glass, and obviously the Florentine is in it. Florentine #1, copy #1. See the reproduction section, page 173. We'll get to that in a second. This is the price list from the 1990s. I can't remember. Is it 1999? Yeah, okay. So this is the price list from 1999, and this is the 6-inch plate, and it's called here Sherbert one. Plate 6-inch Sherbert, and you can see the green. It came in green and yellow. Green, $6. You're not going to make a whole lot of money on this. Anyway, if you skip over here to the actual reproduction, importing company out of Georgia. Now, a picture of reproduction shaker is not known. I'd like you to know of its existence. So they did actually reproduce this pattern. Apparently they reproduced it in yellow. I don't know offhand if they did any other colors. I only know for sure that this is definitely the 1930s stuff. But for what it's worth, if you see it in something other than uranium green, you definitely need to watch out for that. It may be reproduction. Now, going back to this, although it's called a sherbet plate or something there, in this case it's actually, they called it a bread and butter plate, Florentine #1 in green. This one, 6 inches across, depression glass. There you go. Not currently in stock, and they don't actually have a price, unfortunately. Now, replacements.com actually puts this at 1932 to 1935. The depression glass book, this is 1934 to 36. I'm not sure who exactly to believe, but it's still the same general area, so we're just going to call it a wash and say it's around 1935. Now, apart from that, if the price in the 90s was $6, what's this worth? Bearing in mind I spent $2 Canadian on it. And the bad news is that not a whole hell of a lot. Now, the Florentine green is still a very good seller. Uranium glass, I think, tends to hold its value, I think. Even though I've seen a lot of depression glass, which are really, unless you're actually collecting a specific pattern, even then the prices aren't great. Uranium glass, because it's just so unusual and just people are into it, it definitely holds its value because it's much less, you can't really fake it. They just don't make the stuff anymore. 1930s stuff, yeah, get it in good condition, you definitely got something that's old. It's like, it's much easier to be confident that what you've got is an actual antique as opposed to something that was reproduced in the 70s. And there is quite a lot of reproduction, depression glass around. But anyway, prices here kind of vary quite a bit. You can see some examples. This was the butter lid over 35. It sells for 50 Canadian. Single plate sold for 15. 2 cups and saucer sets for 22. They're kind of all over the place. And a lot of the pieces themselves, which are actually not, if you take off the filter, a lot of them here are just sort of from unreasonably high prices, but they're not really selling. There's 67 results, and some of it is selling, not for these prices, I would say. So, bearing in mind that this I bought for $2 and it is quite heavily damaged, I actually don't know what to do with it. It is probably not even worth 10 bucks. I will probably be handing it back to the thrift store, and hopefully a uranium glass collector will find it and enjoy it. Still, I personally really like it. I really do like seeing uranium glass. It's always really fun to go out with a black light and just play with it, especially knowing that it's something that is actually that old and is somehow still mostly intact. So anyway, this is my small joyful thing for the day. I hope you guys like it as well. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.